All right, so today I want to talk to you guys about budget gear and whether or not you should invest in certain budget gear and then really kind of avoid others completely. Now, keep in mind, as I'm talking about this, there are always going to be exceptions to the rule. I'm kind of painting this with a broad brush that will really speak to, in my experience, what is beneficial and what is not beneficial. Does it mean I'm right or I'm wrong? That's up to you to decide. Don't intend to ruffle any feathers, but this is going to be my opinion, and you can take that for what it's worth. Now, if you're just kind of getting into this, the hardest thing to do is figure out what interface to buy. And I think, so let's kind of start right there with interfaces. I think today, budget interfaces have become very good for the most part. There are some to kind of maybe stay away from. And if you simply just do a Google search, don't rely so much on the forums per se. Kind of do a Google search and say, company X, model YYZ, whatever it may be, problems. And see where you can see some common problems and whether you should avoid that piece of gear or not. And then you also want to say, do that same search for that same piece of gear and say, blah, 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 whatever piece of gear, X, Y, Z, what it's great at. Kind of like that. I mean, you can figure out the words to use and the verbiage of your Google search, but kind of do your homework that way. Understand that there's a lot of things you have to learn when you're first getting into digital recording in your computer. And there's a lot of things, it's important to have some problems along the way, because once you learn how to overcome those, it builds a foundation of what to look for going in. So that's why if I'm saying you're just getting started out, unless you happen to be loaded down with a ton of money or whatever, like most people are not, I think it's quite all right to spend $250, $350 on a budget, 2 in, 2 out, let's just say interface, and you're going to get decent results with it. Understand you kind of get what you pay for, especially when it comes to the mic preamps, the stability of it, how long it's going to be supported. But most people who get into the budget level, you don't stay there very long. Now understand that budget piece of gear is not likely to retain its value at all. So another reason, kind of way to consider that, don't overspend until you know you're really going to do this a lot. And then you can put a lot more thought into it when you're going to that next level to fit your needs and sound quality and all the other options that come along with that. But, like anything else, getting into your digital audio workstation for the first time can seem overwhelming. There's a lot to learn very quickly, but what in music is not? I mean, if you play an instrument, you probably do if you're doing this. When you first started, it was hard. It was hard until you got that foundation down, and then it slowly became easier and easier and easier. So is it when it comes to recording at home, both with your computer as well as incorporating outboard hardware if you choose to do that later on. And I'm going to talk about that here in a second. So you're okay really starting out with a budget interface, so don't overthink that. And the main reason I say that today is, and this hasn't always been true, is today you can get some really great conversion on a budget piece of gear. Conversion has come so far, quite frankly, even in the really high-end pieces, to some degree we're splitting hairs. Now you may be able to hear an audible difference in one studio and difference between pieces of gear, but I guarantee you the end listener's not ever going to notice for 1 second the differences. These are things that we do to please ourselves. And oftentimes it's worth it investing in better conversion just so you can make better choices in your mix. But let's don't get bogged down with that. So in interfaces, it's okay to go budget. Before I do that, I need to do a quick little thing of housekeeping right now. I don't do sponsorships. I've never been paid to make a video. I never plan to. In addition to this, I have a woodworking company where I make, enclosures for a lot of control surface, a lot of different things. You can go to www.artisanwoodshed.com and see all the ones that I offer. I make them here. You can see Soft Tubes Console 1 and the fader. I've got numerous variations and configurations of this on the website, as well as PreSonus's fader port 8 and 16. And I've recently released Avid's S1 and Dock, any combination thereof. And you can look at those as well. One thing I've kind of gotten into recently, as you can see right here, 3D printing. Let's see, I'll try and get that in focus if I can. And you can see this is, actually if I put it over in front of my face so you don't look at my ugly mug, you can see where this is for the Tone X pedal, right? And so you notice that angle that it puts it at. Let me put, you notice that angle that it puts it at. That actually makes it a lot easier to kind of see everything on the front of the units. I do the same thing for a lot of control surfaces. This one I've got to modify a little bit because it doesn't have the side pieces to hold it from going left and right. But you can see one here I've got here for, oh, there we go, for Antelope Audio's interface, and I'm working on doing a review. That'll probably be out tomorrow and looking at that. But what it does, again, it puts it at that angle. There we go. There we go. It puts it at that angle, enabling you to see a lot of the dials and everything so much better. And so I've got a lot of the things coming out that are going to be on the website. These aren't on the website yet, but kind of be looking out for that. These are going to be really economical. Speak of economical, everything I make is meant to make it look good, functional, more important, functional, as well as add some beauty and some bling to your studio, but also do it economically. Cheaper than probably anybody else out there that's doing it, and the quality of woods and things that I do, especially in the enclosure. So go to www.artisanwoodshed.com. I also have affiliate links with Sweetwater. You'll find those the link down below on this video and every other video, as well as Thomann over in Europe. If you go buy even if you go buy a set of strings or a mic cable or whatever, I get a tiny cut of it. If you're spending a lot of money, it really helps me, and that's what sustains this channel and helps it grow. A lot of people think people like me make a ton off YouTube. I don't. I probably make anywhere from $600-700 a month off my YouTube channel. All the other money I make is on these side projects, okay? That's what helps things keep coming to you, okay? So let's get back to this subject. Now, once you get past, really understanding how to use your interface, learning what buffers mean and how that affects everything, and when to change buffers and when not to change buffers, I've got videos out there on that to help you understand that. And you can really start creating some of your own music, and maybe you want to start broadening out to other things. Or maybe you're already there. Maybe you're past that budget interface and you've gone to that next level interface, and you actually want to consider adding outboard hardware to your studio. Outboard hardware meaning all of this stuff and all of that stuff behind me. That's a lot of stuff over there, right? And I've got a bunch back over there. Now, obviously, I have a lot because I enjoy it. But do I need it? First question out there, do I need it? No, I don't need any of it. I don't need any of it. I love it, okay? You can do a lot of great work with plugins, but if you've moved past that and you're ready to go with hardware, you are going to get better sounding quality out of hardware for the most part, and that's what I'm going to talk about next. So let's say, for example, let's start with a compressor. Maybe you want to add an outboard compressor to your existing workflow. And maybe you want to add 1176 style compressor, example, probably the most popular. There are budget things out there, and you're going to hear people rave and review about those budget things. But keep in mind, you have to ask yourself, what level of experience do the people who are raving about it have with better stuff? Now, I'm not taking anything against those people who enjoy that. And I'm not saying it's bad, okay? I'm not saying it's bad at all. I'm just saying, does it make sense? So I'm going to use some examples of like Behringer, Golden Age, some of those. There's also numerous others out there that make, Lindell as an example. Now, Lindell is kind of crossed the borderline a little bit with that 1176, gone from really kind of budget to more mid-level thing of clone stuff. So I'm going to keep that out on its own and maybe separate that one. But anyway, they make a lot of inexpensive entry-level hardware. So should you invest in this gear? My advice to you, and this is simply one guy's opinion, there are going to be people who disagree with me, and we can just respectfully agree to disagree. We don't have to get angry, so chill out, okay? But I'm going to say no, and I'm going to give you some reasons why I'm going to say no. Honestly, that gear, as much as you enjoy working with outboard hardware, your plugin, if you get the right plugins, are most likely going to sound better. And you're going to get more and more instances of it, okay? And also the resale of that gear is basically nil. You're not going to get any money out of it. So when you take, for example, a $250 1176 clone, and you compare that to a $600 or $700 1176 clone, it's worth it to save that extra money and be patient and save up for that next level, because you will get not only probably better built, you most definitely, I can guarantee you, get better sounding, results with it. And you're also going to get better resale. And so I think it's better to save up a little bit more, be a little more patient, and skip up to that next level. Now, who are some of the companies out there that make some really great stuff out there? Warm Audio does a good job for the price. They do. Hairball Audio, which is another one too, you can buy stuff already assembled, or you can actually save some money if you're good with a soldering iron and you have the patience and you can follow instructions, unlike me. But you can actually build your own gear for a lot less and save a ton of money. And there's numerous companies out there that allow you to do that. But realize you've got to have a certain skill set going into that before you jump into it. If you've never used a soldering iron before, I don't recommend that. Learn how to do some of that stuff by making your own cables, things like that, and then maybe jump into those waters. But you've also got some like Cappy Audio as an example. Those are also some very, very, very good pieces of gear. Honestly, especially in the API vein, they are as good as API's own units, okay? But at a much cheaper price. So they make fantastic stuff. So anyway, Black Lion Audio also makes some good stuff, but they have had some issues with some of their things here lately. But overall, they have an excellent track record. So there's a lot of, I'm not going to mention every company because not all of them are coming to my head right now, but there's a lot of good companies out there that make good clone gear for a reasonable price. Now let's talk about resale value of this gear. This gear's probably going to get about 50 to 60% resale on a good day, which is better than the entry level, which is basically going to get you next to nothing. Can't probably give it away. Well, you can give it away, of course. I'm being ridiculous by saying that. I'm just overemphasizing it. So it is going to get good. It's going to get decent return on your value. Now, when you get into the audioscapes of the world, when you get into Stam Audio, which is, I'm a big fan of that. I've got several pieces of Stam Audio here in the studio. Then you're getting into some very, very, very fine gear. I'm also a big fan of Tegeler Audio. They make absolutely fantastic stuff. But you're now in the over $1,000 range for the most part, or right at it. So there's a lot of things to consider. And so I'll go back to this one point again. Do you need any of this hardware? No. You can do a great job just staying strictly in the box. You absolutely can. Do you enjoy working with hardware, outboard hardware like I do? Do you think it gives you that little bit of difference in there? And it does. And is it worth it to you? Then go ahead and do it. But you want to be careful how you spend your money. You don't want to spend the money and then realize it's not retaining hardly any of its value. And that's going to be an important thing to consider when getting into outboard gear. If you just invest in that super inexpensive stuff, it's not going to likely yield you much better results. I mean, significant enough to justify the loss at some point of your money when you could have saved a little bit more money, got better results, and got a better return on your investment. So kind of keep that in mind. And again, this is just my opinion. I'm one guy out there, but I have been helping people solve problems for over 30 years and helping them work through these things and guide them through these things. And when I listen to them and get their feedback, this is basically all the data I've collected over all these decades of helping other folks out. Now let's talk about mic preamps. I think everybody should have at least one good quality microphone preamp in your studio. I think that is going to make a difference. Now that said, depending on the level of interface that you have, there are interfaces out there that have some outstanding built-in mic pre's. So keep that in mind. But when you get an outboard piece, whether it's a Neve clone, whether it is an API clone, or anything else between an SSL clone, all the different ones that are out there, you're not only getting the mic preamp, you're getting the color, what the actual going through the electronics is doing to that sound. And that's why I think it's important. I probably have about 10 or 12 outboard mic preamps here in the studio that I use in addition to what's in there, but I'm not recording a band at a time. So when I'm doing it, I'm looking for a color. You know, I've got maybe 3 different Neve clones. I've got a couple of different API clones. I've got a couple SSLs. I think I've got one Trident. Anyway, the rest aren't coming to mind right now. Oh, I got a Grace Audio, and that's when you want pristine. But anyway, I've got these mainly because I've collected them all over the decades, okay? So you should at least look in one microphone. Now, I can't cover the details of which microphone preamp to buy. I've got other videos that talk about that, so you maybe should look in my YouTube channel and just do a search for microphone preamps, and you'll find that video. I've probably done several on that, but kind of keep that in mind. I think it's good to have that if to add color, especially for your vocals, especially for your vocal chain. And in the end, if you want to invest in outboard gear and you're mainly doing one track at a time, consider a really high quality channel strip. If you can get it all built into one channel strip, if you can get the microphone preamp, the compressor, and the EQ, you're set. You're set. I'm dying to try SSL's new one that they just came out with. I'm dying to try that. I think it's probably going to be absolutely freaking fantastic. And I'm going to get my hands on one of those here pretty soon. So I think investing in a good channel strip. Now, a lot of channel strips will come with the microphone preamp and the EQ. Think of Heritage Audio. Think of Warm Audio as examples. Tegler Audio. I've got a Veritube recording channel strip behind me, which I think is absolutely fantastic. So do your homework on that. But anyway, consider that. So if you're going to go down this road, what did we learn from this particular video? Okay. I'm just giving you a lot of variables to consider and what to think about. These are decisions ultimately you have to make yourself. No one else can make these for you. I'm not in the business of telling you what to do. I'm in the business of giving you things that you should consider when making a purchase so you can always make a good purchase. For the record, if you see this video get choppy every once in a while, I came down with a viral infection, so I'm having to stop and cough and things like that. My wife and I went to a much-deserved rest in Cancun. Actually, if you've heard me talk about it, I hadn't actually taken a day off in over 2 years. Between my regular job, between the YouTube channel, between my woodworking, I just never take days off. And so we were there for 5 days and had a wonderful time. And then right after I got back, I came down with a bug. So anyway, I'm trying to get over that right now. I'm almost over it, but it's kind of coming back and hit me again. So if you see some of the choppiness in this video, that's where it's coming from. So again, to kind of wrap it up, be careful going with entry-level hardware gear. You're okay going with entry-level recording interfaces, although you will have some issues. But I think those issues are somewhat important to learn how to deal with so you get the foundation. You're not going to experience them all the time, and most of them can, just about all of them can be overcome. It just requires the know-how on how to overcome them. And I think these are lessons that you need to learn. You know, you can't keep walking if you don't fall down every once in a while. If you're not pushing the envelope, you got to fail a few times before you can learn and keep moving forward. It's kind of the philosophy I'm using there. And that's if you're on a tight budget, okay, as most people are getting into that. So I think between the interfaces, I think you're okay on budget interfaces. There will be a time you're going to want to upgrade from that, and that'll be fine, and you should know when that time comes. And in addition to that, outboard gear, in my opinion, avoid the budget stuff. Just avoid it. It may make you happy, but there's a lot of placebo effect involved in that. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to offend anybody. I truly don't. But if you have a lot of experience with a lot of different gear, you can kind of come to that realization pretty quickly. And I'm not trying to say all of it's bad. Again, none of this all goes into one bucket, right? There's a lot of variables that come into play here. And then when it comes to, you want to go to that, probably that next level to start out there. And then when you can get into the Audioscape, this, the Stam Audio and that vein of gear out there, you really get into some serious quality gear. So kind of keep that in mind. Start with the mid-level. Don't start with the budget when it comes to outboard hardware if you choose to do that, but always keep in mind you can say plugins and you'll be just fine. And you probably need to look at one decent channel strip if you can. If you can't go whole channel strip, then invest in a good mic preamp. And you can get one decent sounding, really good sounding microphone preamp that can add the color I'm talking about, for between $500 and $800. I think you can easily do that. A lot of clones out there make some really good ones. And I always recommend starting with a Neve clone. I think that's going to give you your greatest color, in my opinion. And this term color just means sonic character to it that you're not going to get over an interface microphone preamp. Okay? So kind of keep these things in mind. So I hope I've given you something to think about. This video is not for everybody, as you figured out. If you've been doing this a while, you probably wasted your time watching this video because it didn't tell you anything you didn't already know, right? But if you're just getting into this, I think these are things that are important that everyone needs to know. So until next time, hope all of you have a great day. Bye-bye.